Still Alive but Not Living, a novel by VMS. From the author's statement. I did not write this memoir to heal, accuse, or inspire. I wrote it because silence had began to feel dishonest. As a psychologist, I have spent decades listening to trauma explained as a individual failure rather than structural reality. As a woman, I lived that contradiction. Education, discipline, and moral conduct did not protect me. They merely trained me to endure longer. This book is addressed to my mother because she represents both absence and inheritance, the life that ended early and the life that continued in her children without instruction. Writing to her allowed me to refuse spectacle while remaining intimate, to examine cruelty without a sensationalism, and to hold responsibility without self erasure. I do not offer recovery narratives or redemptive arcs, I offer attention. If this book has value, it lies in its refusal to simply survival into virtue or suffering into destiny. Now let's move on to the first chapter, 24th December 1984. It's a memoir written by Dr. Sarah. Amma, I remember the colors first: red, blue, yellow. The wax crayons were blunt at the edge, worn down by too many afternoons of careless happiness. I was sitting on the floor that Sunday, 24th December 1984, drawing flowers that never existed, petals too large, stems too crooked. Because you were beside me and that was enough, and you were lying on the bed very still. I did not think stillness meant danger. I thought it meant rest. Mothers were always tired. You had asthma, and breath was something you negotiated with effort every day. I was 10. I did not know that breath could be stolen quietly. After some time, my stomach began to ache with hunger. I called out to you, Amma. You did not answer. I called again, louder. No movement, no scolding, no smile. I climbed onto the bed and shook your arm gently, the way I always did when I wanted attention. Your skin was warm, but your body felt far away, as if you had stepped out of yourself and forgotten to return. Fear entered my body without warning. I ran to Appa. He rushed in, shook you harder, called your name, Nike, Nike, his voice breaking in a way I had never heard before. You did not respond. Panic turned him into someone unfamiliar. Within minutes, everything moved too fast. You were taken to Dr. Dayanati, our family doctor. I remember his face, a shocked, grave adult. She is severely anemic, he said. She needs immediate blood transfusion. She is nearing death. Those words did not belong in my world. Death was for old people, for stories, for cinema scenes, not for my mother or father, not for the woman who braided her hair every morning. Appa Swami was an IAS officer hardened by transfers, postings, and 40 relocations across 30 years of service. He had been indifferent to you in ways children notice but cannot name. Yet that day I saw him shattered. As he was in Marthandam then, at the border of Tamil Nadu, Appa had to return to duty on the 26th. We were at home. He decided to leave on 25th morning, trusting my grown-up brothers to admit you to the private hospital once he returned with a salary. And that morning, 25th December, you ironed a shirt and you were sick, Amma, weak, breathless. Yet you stood there pressing the cloth with shaking hands. When you finished, you smiled and said, "Thank you for the love and care." Appa hugged you, kissed your forehead, and "Wait till I come back," he said. Just 2 days, a government car arrived. You stood at the gate and waved. He leaned out of the window and waved back. I stood frozen. It was the first time in my life I saw love clearly between my parents. I did not know it would also be the last. On the 26th, your sons admitted you to the government hospital. They did not want to take the risk anything about Appa before return, and it was a mistake, one that cannot be undone. You were placed in a general ward, open windows, December cold, an asthma patient exposed to night air. Someone gave you oranges, citrus that tightened your breath, unknowingly sealing your fate. I did not see you for 2 days. 2 days without a mother feels longer than a lifetime. On the night of the 27th, around 8 p.m., my older brother Madhav took me to the hospital. I cried the entire day when I saw you, Amma. I begged, wake up, talk to me, please. But you lay there like a statue of yourself. No response, no eyes, no voice. By 10 p.m., we took the last bus back home. We reached by 11. A few hours later, voices woke me. Crying, lights everywhere, the smell of incense, thick, suffocating, and it was wafting across the December mist. Unfamiliar it was. 4 a.m. 28th December 1984, your body was placed in the portico, a light glowed behind your head, a garland rested on your chest. The morning mist carried the smoke across the street. That was the moment I understood. You were not sleeping, you were gone. A trunk call was made to Appa. He started immediately from Marthandam and reached by 6 p.m. When he saw you, he nearly collapsed. He cried for the first time in his life. The house overflowed with people, neighbors, relatives, strangers. It was Friday, Vaikunta Ekadashi. They said those who die on this particular day go directly to heaven, whether you are good or bad, you are a thief or a robber or anybody. Welcomed by a red carpet as a genuine soul. As Sumangali, they said you are blessed and fortunate. To see you once they believed was a blessing. The crowd was uncontrollable like a VIP death. But Amma, I wanted you to be alive, not blessed. On the 29th, the funeral rituals ended. People left, silence written. Only then did the truth arrive. Only then did I cry. I hugged Abba, I hugged your sari. I inhaled whatever remind of you and slept. Appa resumed duty on 1st of January 1985. He tried to console us, then left. I went back to school. Everyone asked about your death. I came home, called out, Mummy, Mummy, where are you? No answer. I fell sick with fever for a week. Appa returned and refused to take risk of my health. He requested a transfer. In his final years of service, he was posted near Chennai. He retired 4 years later when I was in 9th standard. By then, Amma, I had already learned how to exist without living, and that lesson began with you lying still while I colored a world that would never be the same again. And the next chapter, in the year 1985 to 1989, living without you, Amma. This is a year, first year I learned that a house without a mother does not become quiet, it becomes cruel. After you left, life did not pass out of respect, it rushed forward, trampling everything gentle. I was still a child, but childhood did not wait for me. I had to grow into survival. And we were 5 children left behind with one broken father, and 4 siblings, one house, no warmth holding us together. And we crept in first, then jealousy, then greed, and finally hatred. The house turned into a battlefield. Your sons became monstrous, Amma. I know that it hurts you, but the word is heavy, but that is how they felt to us. Always shouting, screaming, threatening, fighting, and behaving like criminals. And they harassed my siblings, girl siblings, Tanya and Punya. Screams became background noise. Tears were routine. They did not touch me, not because they were kind, but because I was Appa's pet, his youngest, his fragile reminder of you. That protection became another reason for hatred. For 4 long years, Appa was busy with the service, transfers, files, power, everything except the demons growing inside the house. With no authority present, chaos ruled. Madhav and Raghav fought for everything: property, money, food, ego. Their fights escalated to the edge of murder more than once. Neighbors had to intervene to save lives. I watched from corners, Amma, silent, alert, and learning how to disappear. Appa was ashamed that he could govern districts but could not control his own sons. Eventually, he stopped trying to discipline them and focused only on us, the 3 daughters, Punya, Tanya, and me, Sarah. And when he retired, he finally stayed home, but by then damage had already settled deep. The first marriage disaster arrived with Punya. She was 25, intelligent, beautiful, but irresponsible in ways we did not understand then. Her psychological cracks were invisible before marriage. Appa arranged her alliance with a man 10 years older. On paper, he looked respectable, but in reality, he was a pervert, a debaucher. Our marriage broke on the very first night. What followed were months of humiliation, arguments over dowry, accusations, character assassination. Punya was already pregnant. She delivered a baby girl within a year while her own mind began to fracture. Schizophrenia, the doctor said. Appa brought her back home with the child. He arranged treatment, medicines, care. But Amma, how do you heal a daughter whose life collapsed before it even began? I watched my sister turn into a patient. I watched motherhood arrive alongside madness, and I learned that marriage does not always rescue women. It often ruins them. And then came the life of Tanya. She chose her own partner by arranged alliance, fair, handsome. She was dog sensitive, already burdened with an inferiority complex. Marriage magnified it. Comparisons, cruelty, and silence expectations. Everything stacked against her. Another rift, another broken dream. The house was filled with wounded women and raging men. I was watching, always watching. Amma, by then fear had taken root inside me. I was terrified of arranged marriages and terrified of becoming another Punya or Tanya, another woman returned home with a dignity torn apart. So I chose education as my only escape. I joined my master's in English literature at Raj College. Every day I traveled by bus, crowded, noisy, anonymous, and the bus became my breathing space. That is where Vinay entered my life. He was not educated, only 10th standard, but he worked as a front office receptionist in Hotel Ambassador Pallava Star Hotel because of his charm and his charisma. His body was strong, his charm effortless. Confidence wrapped him like a second skin. He noticed me, listened to me, made me feel chosen. And for a girl raised in neglect and fear, that attention felt like oxygen. Our love lasted 2 years, 2 chaotic years. We fought every day. He demanded money or jewels to pledge or to sell to pay his house rent loan. Initially, I was mechanically giving gold chain money without tax knowledge. When I questioned or told him to return, he disappeared often, ditching me, returning as if nothing happened. Each time, my self-respect thinned a little more. I knew he was dangerous, but Amma, when you grow up in hell, the familiar devil feels safer than the unknown angel. I decided to escape my house. I clung to Vinay, believing love, even painful love, was better than the marriage traps waiting at home. I followed him blindly. The trauma began even before marriage: emotional manipulation, abandonment, hope, rejection, and repeat. Still, I stayed because I did not know how to choose myself. Amma, I'm writing all this to you because no one else ever asked how it felt. Because you would have listened, because you would have protected me. I survived those years, but survival is not living. And I was learning slowly, painfully, how to remain alive without ever truly existing. In the next chapter, I will tell you what Vinay did to me and how love finally taught me its sharpest lesson. Your daughter, Sarah. And the next chapter, 1990 to 1998, the choice I refused to undo. Amma, by the time I finished my master's, I had already become an enemy inside of my own home. My siblings did not see me as a sister anymore or the youngest father's pet. They saw me as a competitor. I was Appa's favorite, not because I was better, but because I was fragile, because I carried your shadow. That all alone made me dangerous in their eyes. Appa tried one last time to save me. He said, if you live this useless love, I will give you everything, the property, the security. You become an IS like me. And it was a golden offer: power, stability, respect. But Amma's stubbornness had already replaced fear in me. I told him, good or bad, Vinay is my partner. The sentence sealed my fate. Amma, Vinay's parents were criminals, not rumors, reality, hard and unapologetic greed. His mother looked at me with cold calculation and said plainly, bring wealth and jewels, otherwise we will not accept you. I had nothing of my own except you. You had left behind 15 sovereigns of jewelry. Appa had never touched it. For Punya and Tanya, he bought new jewelry, 15 sovereigns each, arranged grand weddings, bore every expense. Your jewels were preserved like a memory, not currency. I took them. I took your silk saris too. 2 days before my marriage, I left my home. I did not look back, but with the blessing of our Appa. The marriage was simple at Murugan temple, no music, no celebration, just vows spoken quietly and registered immediately in the registered office, and Appa signed as a witness. And he did not curse me, he did not stop me, he blessed me. He gave me a new silk sari, a set of bangles worth 25 to 30,000, and in cash. Manage your new life, he said. That was all he had left to give, his blessings and his pain. Amma, the torture began on the very first day. By nightfall, I knew I made a mistake. I wanted to return home. When I begged, cried, promised, he said he would take me away from his parents. We moved to a small house in Ananagar. The 30,000 Appa gave me vanished instantly as house advance, rent, basic appliances. I did not complain. I was happy. I had married the man I chose. I was independent. I was finally free. That happiness lasted for weeks, I could say. Then the fight started, daily, brutal. When I had hidden the truth from me, he suffered from a neuromuscular dystrophy and something he concealed for a year during our courtship. But illness was not his worst crime. He was a womanizer. He compared me with other women deliberately to hurt, to dominate, to provoke. My possessiveness became my weakness. Doubt grew like poison. We fought every day. The fights turned violent. We poured kerosene on each other, threatening to burn everything. We held knives, screaming words that could never be erased. Love did not protect us, it destroyed us. Within a year of marriage, when I had swindled everything, your jewelry, my savings, my dignity. Then he disappeared. 3 months, no message, no praise. Shame swallowed me whole. Papa came to know. He begged me to divorce, to start again. He was still trying to save his daughter. After 3 months, Vinay returned, fell at my feet, begged forgiveness. I believed him. I gave him a chance. I paid for the belief. Within 3 more years of slavery and mental torture and harassment, continued, repeated. I yearned, he spent. I endured, he tortured. I lived like a servant in my own marriage, emotionally, financially, physically. I thought sufferings was loyalty. Amma, one day I decided to go to the police. That decision alone changed his tone. He begged again, promised again, took me to another separate house. The cycle repeated: hope, house, hell. This time something unexpected happened. I became pregnant. I was 26. My body was weak. The doctor ordered complete bed rest. When Appa heard, he came immediately. No arguments, no conditions. He took me away. He placed me in a large bungalow, bought everything: bed, refrigerator, and washing machine, all the comforts I had never asked for. He stayed with me, watched over me like a god. He paid for the cesarean delivery, every medical expenses, every household need, and he used his entire pension for me, only for me, his child, and my son Arjun. Amma, if love nearly killed me, motherhood saved me. Appa poured his last resources into my survival. I watched an old man exhaust himself to protect what remained of you, me, and child born from my broken choices. I was still alive, but I knew deep inside I had not yet begun to live. In the next chapter, I will tell you how becoming a mother forced me to confront everything I had endured and how pain finally began to transform into purpose. Your doctor, Sarah. And the next chapter, 2000 to 2007, when the last protector fell. Amma, if there was one reason in my life that felt like living, it was the years when Appa became a grandfather. The love between Swami and my son Arjun was immeasurable. It healed something in him that decades of service never could, and he lived on cloud nine. Amma, truly alive for the first time after you left. He taught Arjun everything he knew, his flawless English, yoga, dawn, and how to say it, how to speak, how to respect all the basic etiquettes, morals, values, discipline, and decorum, quiet lessons delivered through example, not by words or by force or compulsion. Arjun, shrewd enough and a nerd by nature, grabbed it immediately. Watching them together was watching redemption. For a while, my life felt safe. That illusion shattered when Arjun was 5 years old. Appa was 75. He went for a meeting that day, still active, still commanding attention. During a speech, he collapsed, a massive heart attack. He was taken to the general hospital. Do you remember the hospital? Where did I meet you for the last time? The same general hospital. By the time I received the call, it was already over. I rushed with Vinay and Arjun. I held my son while receiving my father's body. Amma, losing Appa felt like losing you all over again. Only this time I was not a child. We brought his body to the Ambattur house, a sprawling bungalow over 7,000 square feet. He had divided everything equally among his 5 children, no favorism, no justice. So he believed. Amma, the moment Appa was gone, I became an enemy to the whole family. Not a sister, not a daughter, a threat. Raghav, the criminal lawyer, moved first. He used everything he knew: forgery, intimidation, manipulation. He hired a rowdy named Ramesh. Threats came disguised as legal notices. Fear knocked daily at my door. Piece by piece, my property vanished. The other siblings watched in silence. No help, no protest, no loyalty. I lost everything. Appa had left me, and then I realized that this was no longer about property. It was about survival. Amma, one night I looked at Arjun sleeping. I knew staying meant death. So I ran. Overnight I relocated to Bangalore with Arjun, with nothing except fear and determination. I left behind my father's house, my childhood streets, and the illusion of family. I did not look back again. Because sometimes Amma, living means escaping, even if it feels like dying all over again. In the next chapter, Amma, I will tell you how Bangalore tested me, broke me, and quietly began shaping the woman I would become, and your daughter, Sara. And the next chapter, 2008, running does not always save you. Amma, I thought changing cities would change my fate. Bangalore welcomed me with promise and hit its nights well. And we arrived with nothing but exhaustion and fear. And Vinay was unreliable, fragile in his own way, but Arjun needed stability. I convinced myself the survival was still possible, and that was when Harish entered my life. He was our house owner, polite, soft spoken, and a real estate person, observant. He watched my fractured family like a predator, watches an injured animal slowly, carefully. He stepped closer. He told me stories about his wife Sujata, who was insane, how he was trapped in a loveless marriage, how he deserved a woman who can understand him. And he used to call me that, "You are brilliant," he said, "you are beautiful, and you have wasted your life." He was married, he had 2 daughters, still he tried to possess me. When persuasion failed, cruelty followed, emotional pressure, physical intimidation, isolation. He forced the idea of marriage on me as if my consent was irrelevant. Amma, I was drowning again. In the middle of this chaos, something extraordinary happened. I completed a PhD in literature and psychology. While my life was collapsing, my mind was surviving. Study became my refuge. Books did not touch me, and degrees did not demand my body. Knowledge did not betray me. I became Dr. Sara in the midst of ruin, but even that could not save me from Arish. So I ran again. I applied for a job in Dubai, went to Dubai, secured a job as vice principal. I left Arjun with his father, believing distance would protect at least one of us. The guilt nearly broke me, but I believed sacrifice was necessary. Dubai was supposed to be my rebirth. It became another hell. The principal who targeted me relentlessly. Authority turned into entitlement. Professional spaces became unsafe. Silence was demanded in exchange for survival. I broke. I returned to India within months. Amma, back home, I joined a leading college. I thought India would understand me better. I was wrong. The harassment repeated, different phases, same hunger, same abuse of power, and mental harassment, torture, intimidation. This time I filed a police complaint. Instead of protection, I received humiliation, whispers, questions, character assassination, and legal consequences that punished me more than the accused. I could not endure it, so I chose independence. I started my own academy as a sole proprietor, my name, my rules. For the first time, success came without strings. Students respected me, parents trusted me, my work earned recognition, name and fame followed. Outwardly, I had arrived. But my private life was still a battlefield. When I remained violent, manipulative, unstable, that weakness attracted another predator, and his name was Shibu, a neighbor, friendly, helpful, watching. One day he spiked me. 4 days disappeared from my life. When I came back to myself, my body knew the truth before my mind could accept it. He had violated me. And then he began blackmailing me, demanding sex, threatening exposure. I did not stay silent. I filed a police complaint. The case dragged on for 8 years of hearings, 8 years of reliving the violation, 8 years of being examined, doubted, dissected. In the end, he was acquitted. I was labeled habituated, not a survivor, not a victim, a woman of loose character. I lost the case. I lost my faith in justice. Amma, I'm writing this to you because I do not want these words to rot inside me. My body survived assaults. My mind endured humiliation. My soul still bleeding keeps asking why. Why is a woman always on trial? Why is survival mistaken for concern? Why is strength punished? I am tired, Amma. I'm still alive, still breathing, but I'm not living for sure, Amma. In the next chapter, I will tell you how everything finally broke and how that brokenness I began to choose myself for the first time. Your doctor, Dr. Sarah. The next chapter, 2012 to 22, losing everything, keeping one thing, Amma. By the time Arjun became a teenager, I thought I had already survived the worst. I was wrong. He secured admission to college. I remember standing outside the campus gate, watching him walk in with quiet confidence. In that moment, every sacrifice felt justified. Then 2020 arrived. COVID did not knock. I broke the door. My academy collapsed overnight. Students vanished, and money stopped, and fixed expenses continued. Loans suffocated me. One by one, everything I had built dissolved. House, jewels, jewelry, car, all gone. I became a pauper in silence. No safety net, no rescue, no mercy. Amma, when I had money, my siblings remembered me. I paid generously, lakhs without accounts, without expectation. I believed blood meant loyalty. When I needed help, when Arjun's college fees stood like a wall in front of his future, they demanded interest, agreements, signatures, and conditions. I saw clearly then family is not always shelter. I refused. I sold my car. I sold the last piece of my jewelry. I paid my son's fees with my bare hands. Arjun completed his graduation and the topper in college. He got placed immediately and he stood on his feet, independent, confident, disciplined. He is frugal, teetotaler, untouched by the chaos that raised him. He learned from my mistakes without inheriting my own. Amma, when I look at him, I feel proud in a way words cannot hold. I feel like I look at my own Appa. Everything else I lost, I can live with that because my son learned how to live, and maybe through him I finally did too. And the next chapter, 2024, present, still alive, still writing, Amma. I'm a psychologist now. I help people mend themselves. I teach them to breathe through trauma, to name their pain, to reframe their past. Yet I remain the one patient I cannot heal. My wounds are not visible. They sit like tattoos on my mind and heart, permanent, deliberate, impossible to erase. At night, they return as nightmares. During the day, they pretend to sleep. By God's grace, I am alive, but I am not living, Amma. I survive now. Online classes, quiet work, limited leaves. I make sure I'm not a burden to Arjun. That matters to me more than comfort, more than ambition. Still regret visits, often not regret, for mistakes but regret for a life that was never allowed to bloom. I wanted love, I wanted safety, I wanted dignity. Instead, I learned endurance. There is one desire left, Amma. I want to write, not casually, not quietly. I want to become a successful author and win prizes and laurels and applause to you and Appa. I want to take every trauma, agony, humiliation, sexual abuse, harassment, solitude, loneliness, and trials and the judgments. I turn it into a language that breathes. I want my pain to serve a purpose larger than survival. This memoir, these letters to you are my confession and my refuge. When I write to you, I feel I heard. When I write, my body loosens its grip on fear. In my words, reach every one wounded soul, even one wounded soul. I will consider my life partially redeemed. But Amma, let me confess something bold, something almost childish. I will call myself truly lived only if I win a Booker Prize for any of my works. Not for fame, not for validation, but because it would mean the world finally listened to a woman who was silenced her entire life. Amma, I have begun recording everything personal and professional, every fall, every survival, every compromise, every lesson. This book is not revenge, it is not accusation, it is a moral map for the younger generation. I want them to learn how to be resilient without becoming bitter, how to be independent without becoming isolated, how not to take extreme measures even when life feels lifeless. I want them to know that endurance is not weakness and silence is not concern. Sometimes I imagine you sitting beside me, watching me write. You don't speak, you don't interrupt, you just exist, and that is enough. If this book reaches the world, Amma, I will finally say without trembling, I lived. Until then, I remain still alive but not living. Your daughter, Dr. Sarah. The next chapter, The Quiet Earning. Amma, I have never seen a man truly cares a woman, not with hands alone, but with presence, patience, and protection. I grew up watching absence, indifference, dominance, and cruelty wear the mask of masculinity. Perhaps that is why longing feels unfamiliar to me, almost forbidden, and yet it exists even now. Amma, after everything, I relocated to a new place, a posh locality, calm, orderly, deceptively safe, and that is where I first noticed Rajiv. I could call my twin flame, my soulmate, anything you could. He is my neighbor. For years, we have never spoken, not a single word, just glances, just passes, just that inexplicable stillness when two people unknowingly recognize something ancient in each other. He lives with his spouse, his children, and his mother. I see them often from the outside. It looks like a family. From close observation, I know it is not a happy one. Silence lives there too, of a different kind. I notice things, Amma, I always have. Raju watches me the way people watch something they do not want to name, curious, careful, restrained. He sees me always with my laptop speaking, smiling, sometimes laughing softly into my phone. He probably thinks I'm carefree, social, busy with people. He does not know I'm teaching online. He does not know I'm speaking to students scattered across cities and continents. He does not know my laughter is professional, measured, and earned. And I know nothing of his inner life either, only what observation reveals, Amar. This has gone for years, no messages, no digital courage, no accidental conversations. In a world where people fall in love through screens, we remain stubbornly human, eyes meeting, then withdrawing as if bound by an unspoken agreement. I find myself desiring something I never allowed myself to want, a man like him, not for possession, not for escape, but for companionship. His attitude, his quiet dignity, his handsome restraint, that magnetic charisma which does not announce itself. I wonder sometimes painfully if he feels the same because his eyes never truly leave me. and yet he never crosses the line. Perhaps, Amma, this is what karmic connection looks like, heart to heart, without urgency, without greed, without fear. A love that does not demand arrival or departure, a bond that exists simply because it must. There is no hurry to possess, no impulse to withdraw, just being. Amma, I am still alive, but not living. And maybe, just maybe, I'm alive because of this quiet knowing, this reminder that my heart can still recognize gentleness. That desire had not died inside me, only learned patience. But I have not yet lived, not fully, not freely, not fearlessly. Still, when I think of Raji without touching, without speaking, without hope or expectation, I feel something warm stir again. Maybe that is enough for me. I am still alive, Amma, perhaps because of him. Yet I am still waiting to live. Your daughter, Dr. Sarah, the woman I became. And Amma, if someone reads my life only through its wounds, they may think I'm fragile. They would be wrong. I did not survive because I was protected. I survived because I refused to disappear. Courage, I have learned, is not loud. It does not announce itself with victories or applause. It is a quiet decision to wake up every morning when everything inside you wants to stop. I have lived my entire life making that decision. Amma, I was a child who lost a mother and learned hunger before grief, a daughter who watched her home turn into a battlefield, a sister who became an enemy without choosing to be one, a woman who trusted love and paid for it with blood, dignity, and years. I've been abandoned, violated, cheated, silenced, and shamed and judged. Yet I did not turn cruel, I did not become numb, I did not destroy myself. This is resilience. Resilience was continuing my education when chaos surrounded me. Resilience was earning a PhD when life had no stability. Resilience was giving birth to my son Arjun and choosing to live for him when death felt easier. And resilience was starting over again and again without bitterness. And that is the kind of resilience I face. Even when justice failed, I did not give up on truth. Even when family betrayed me, I did not lose my capacity to give. Even men tried to break me, I did not lose my belief in gentleness. This is courage, Amma, I believe. Amma, I did not come to me as optimism. I did not come to me. It came disguised as responsibility. Hope was Arjun's school bag. Hope was his college fees. Hope was watching him become disciplined, confident, free from addictions that ruined generations before him. And hope was choosing not to burden my child with my pain. Hope was choosing to earn, quietly teach online, and remain independent. Hope was refusing extreme measures even when life felt lifeless. Hope was staying. Today I stand alone but not empty. I am still wounded, yes, still scared, still learning how to live. But I am not broken. I carry my past with dignity, not shame. I carry my failures as lessons, not labels. I carry my loneliness without desperation. I am still dreaming. I dream of writing words that heal others. I dream of telling the truth without fear. I dream of a world where a woman's survival is not questioned, only respected. Amma, if you are watching me from wherever souls rest, know this: your daughter did not collapse. She bent, she bled, she endured, and she is still standing, still alive, still hoping, still becoming. And one day, through words, through truth, through purpose, I will live. Your daughter, Dr. Sarah. And Nagi, the mother I lost, the life that unraveled. Amma, when I think of you, I do not remember laughter first. I remember elegance. You were graceful even in suffering, soft spoken, measured, always careful, as if light itself might break if you move too suddenly. Your asthma shaped everything, your breath, your energy, your endurance. You lived cautiously, quietly, always unwell. You never had a happy life. Appa, Mr. Swami was your opposite, brisk, active, energetic, brilliant IAS officer who commanded rooms, systems, people. You commanded none, you endured. You were a mismatch, Amma, not by choice, by fate. And from the mismatch came 5 children, 5 lives, 5 fractures. None of us escaped unscarred, none of us became whole. Amma, sometimes I wonder if you had lived, would our lives have turned out differently, or were we already doomed by the imbalance we were born into? Madhav, selfish, brilliant, once a gold medalist, he married Malar, a doctor, and she took care of children while he sacrificed his career. Slowly, she groomed herself, swindled his property, and ditched him. And something broke in him. He turned perverse, a womanizer, entangled illegal consequences. At 59, he went to jail for 2 months in a woman-related case. His name, his reputation destroyed. Today, he lives with his estranged second wife, Selvi, a hardcore criminal who married him only for property. This was your son, Amma. Raghav was a criminal by birth. He became a criminal lawyer. He married many times. Appa was forced to arrange another marriage. He trapped him in legal messes. Even Appa, who served the government all his life, faced criminal cases because of Raghav. Appa suffered in his last years, and his death within 3 years, Raghav died too. But before dying, he swindled my property, made me a pauper, and fled to another and so I fled to another state to save my son's life. He did not even leave behind remorse. And Punya, the broken sister, schizophrenia, stole her life early. Her property was usurped by Madhav, Raghav, and Tanya. She was abandoned in an asylum. I did not know her for years. When I finally found her, I brought her back. I gave her a decent life. I spent in lakhs on her care, and that is when my siblings remembered me again only for money. Then COVID came, it shattered everything. Once again, I became a pauper overnight. Tanya survived barely. She lived with Punya, though sheer willpower through. She studied law in her 40s. She fought her marriage conspiracy, won alimony, and now survives with dignity. Punya lost everything, her child, her jewels, her wealth, to her criminal husband. Today she lives under Tanya's care. Amma and me. I am 52 today, 42 years without you. I achieved degrees, yes, titles, yes, respect briefly, but nothing stayed. Everything slipped away: money, property, stability, safety. I find it difficult even to earn my daily bread now. If not for my grown up son who takes care of me with quiet responsibility, I do not know where I would be. When I look back, Amma, I see a family that collapsed from within: childhood trauma, sibling rivalry, greed, crime, betrayal, loss, a useless life. Some might stay. I feel it too. I write this to you not to accuse you, but to mourn you what none of us became. You were elegant, Amma. You were gentle. You were sick and you were silent. And after you died, everything fell apart. I'm still alive but not living. Your daughter, Dr. Sada. And the next chapter 8 was it destiny, karma, or choice? A psychologist tries to understand her own family. Amma, this chapter frightens me the most, not because it exposes others, but because it exposes my helplessness as a psychologist. I've spent my life analyzing minds, diagnosing patterns, offering solutions to strangers. Yet when I looked at our family, I still ask the same unanswered questions. Why did none of us live? Was it destiny? Was it fate? Was it individual karma? Finally, karma, criminal mindset, or simply poor character passed on unchecked? I do not know, but I will try to understand one by one. Amma, as I am a psychologist today, from my point of view, you, Amma Nayagi, chronic illness, you suffered from chronic illness, learned helplessness, and silent depression. You lived in a fragile body that betrayed you daily. Chronic asthma did not just restrict your breath, it shrank your world. Over time, illness became identity. You withdrew inward, accepting suffering as destiny. Psychologically, Amma, you lived with learned helplessness. You stopped expecting change. You endured marriage conflict, emotional neglect, and physical weakness without protest. Not because you lacked strength, but because you lacked support. What could have helped you live better? Emotional support and validation, medical and psychological intervention for chronic illness, empowerment beyond the role of suffering wife. If you had been heard, not just treated, if you had been seen, not just endured, you might have lived, not merely survived. And next about Appa Swami Dayas. He is, according to my chronological psychological analysis, rigid morality, emotional suppression, and workaholism. Appa lived by rules, discipline, and decorum was his armor. Sincerity was his shield. As an IAS officer, he fought criminals daily but never learned to fight. His own emotions, psychologically, he suffered from emotional suppression and compulsive duty orientation. And he believed feelings weakened authority. Transfers gave him excuses to escape domestic conflict instead of resolving it. What could have helped him live better? Emotional intelligence, marital counseling, or boundaries between duty and family, permission to be human, not just an officer. He governed districts, but he never governed his inner world. And next, the first child of your mother, narcissist injury, sexual deviance and moral collapse. Brilliant gold medalist but deeply insecure. Psychologically, Madhav carried narcissistic injury, a fragile ego masked by entitlement, and when his marriage failed and his masculinity felt threatened, he sought validation to power and sexual conquest. Failure transformed him into perversion. What could have helped him live better? Therapy early in adulthood, accountability without humiliation, healthy masculinity role models, emotional regulation skills. Instead, he chose dominance over growth. And your second son, Raghav, antisocial traits, criminal mindset, lack of empathy. Raghav did not drift into crime, he embraced it. Psychologically, he exhibited antisocial personality traits, manipulation, lack of remorse, exploitation of family, pleasure in power, drug addict. Law became a weapon, not as a service. What could have helped him live better? Early behavioral intervention, strong moral containment, consequences without a rescue. But some personality resist reform. Not all minds want healing. And next, your third daughter, Punya, severe mental illness, vulnerability, exploitation. Punya never stood a chance. Schizophrenia robbed her of reality. Her illness made her dependent. Dependency made her prey. Family greed and neglect pushed her into institutions instead of care. And what could have helped her live better? Early psychiatric treatment, protection instead of property politics, and consistent caregiving. Dignity. Mental illness is not tragedy, neglect is. And next, your fourth daughter, Tanya, she had the inferiority complex, delayed empowerment and survival strength and envy. Tanya internalized rejection early. Her inferiority complex shaped her marriage trauma. Yet, unlike others, she fought back late but fiercely. Psychologically, she developed resilience through adversity. What helped her live better? Education, legal literacy, and self advocacy. She is proof that delayed awakening is still awakening. And me, Dr. Sarah, your last but not the least, complex trauma, hyper responsibility, survival guilt. I grew up observing everyone's pain. Psychologically, I carry complex PTSD from chronic childhood trauma, emotional neglect, repeated adult abuse, and betrayal. I became hyper responsible and self sacrificing and tolerant of suffering. I mistook endurance for virtue. What could have helped me live better? Early trauma therapy, safe attachment, boundaries, self worth not tied to sacrifice. I survived but by the cost of joy. Amma. So, what is the truth? It was not destiny alone, not fate alone, not karma alone. It was unhealed trauma multiplied across generations. Pain that was never addressed became behavior. Behavior repeated became legacy, and legacy destroyed lives. If every one generation had passed, reflected, sought help, the cycle could have broken. That is why I write. This book is not about blame, it is about awareness. If the next generation reads this and chooses therapy over silence, boundaries over obedience, and healing over endurance, then perhaps our family did not suffer in vain. There is no repetition of family trauma like us. None of us lived, Amma, but maybe because I'm still writing, someone else will. Your doctor, Dr. Sarah. And the next chapter, it is about the learning to live after survival. As a psychologist's guide for the remaining days, Amma, this chapter is not a confession, it is a prescription. After decades of trauma, abuse, betrayal, loss, and disappointment, people often ask me, what now? They believe healing means erasing the past. It does not. Healing means learning how to live with the truth without letting it destroy what remains of life. If I could speak to you as my younger self or to anyone who carries invisible wounds, that is what I would say. Accept that trauma will not disappear, but its power can shrink. Trauma is not chapter you close. It is lens through which the world once could feel unsafe. Trying to forget trauma keeps it alive. The goal is not amnesia, it is integration. Name what happened without shame. Acknowledge the impact of your body, mind, and choices. Stop asking why me and begin asking what now. Acceptance is not surrender, it is the first act of control. And stop measuring life by lost years. Survivors grieve not only people but lost versions of themselves. That grief is real, but living the remaining years in regret is a second trauma inflicted by oneself. Instead, honor the resilience that kept you alive, release the fantasy of how life should have been, and focus on how life could still feel meaningful. Life is not graded by timelines, it is defined by consciousness. Reclaim the body because trauma lives there. Most people try to heal trauma intellectually, that is not enough. Trauma is not stored in the nervous system. Healing requires breath work and gentle yoga, walking in nature, and somatic awareness. Not punishment, not discipline, but compassionate presence in the body. The body must learn that danger has passed. Create boundaries without guilt. One of trauma's deepest damages is the loss of boundaries. Survivors overgive, over-explain, over-endure. Healing begins when you learn. No is not cruelty, distance is not betrayal, protecting peace is not selfish, boundaries are not walls, they are filters for dignity. Redefine relationships. Not every relationship deserves access to your life. Some people are chapters, some are lessons, some are warnings. Choose safe people over familiar people, respect over attachment, calm over chemistry. Loneliness with self-respect is healthier than companionship with harm. I repeat, loneliness with self-respect is healthier than companionship with harm. And find meaning beyond happiness. Happiness is fragile, meaning is durable. Meaning comes from contribution, creation, truth telling, service without a self-erasure. A meaningful life does not require perfection, it requires purpose. Turn pain into language, art, or service. Unexpressed trauma turns inward and becomes illness. Expression saves lives. Write, teach, counsel, create. Your story, when owned, becomes medicine. Not everyone needs to understand it, but someone will survive because of it. Release the need for justice to validate healing. Justice may fail, courts may acquit, families may deny, society may judge. Healing must not wait for fairness. Closures come not from external validation but from self-allegiance. You know your truth, that is enough. Practice self-compassion relentlessly. Trauma survivors are hardest on themselves. Replace self-criticism with curiosity. Why did I react this way? Instead of what is wrong with me? What do I need now? Instead of why am I weak? Self-compassion is not indulgence. It is reparenting the wounded self. choose to live even without joy. Some days will still feel heavy. Living does not mean smiling, it means staying engaged, drinking tea mindfully, teaching one student, writing one page, watching the sunrise, a life written slowly, quietly. Amma, I may never reclaim the life I lost, but I can shape the life that remains. If survival was my first victory, meaning will not be my second. For anyone who has lived like me, still alive but not living, know this. It is never too late to begin life gently. Your daughter, Dr. Sarah. And from pampered childhood to reluctant survivor. Amma, I was not born into struggle. The truth matters. I was born to educated, respected parents, a secured home, comfort, attention. I was pampered, protected, unaware of how brutal life could be. Peace was my natural state until the day you died. Your death did not just take me away, and your death did not just take you away, it dismantled my understanding of safety. Overnight, the world became unpredictable, love became unreliable, home became unfamiliar. I learned my first harsh lesson early. Nothing permanent could be trusted. After you left, I did not learn how to accept reality gently. I tried to escape it. I escaped into education, escaped into responsibility, and finally I escaped into love. That escape had a name, Vinay. Choosing him was not romance, it was desperation. He was the wrong person, chosen for the wrong reasons, at the wrong time. But Amma, he felt like a door out of suffocating house. That door led straight into hell. Vinay became the root cause of many evils in my life, not because he alone was cruel, but because I stayed even after seeing the truth. Through him, I learned how easily vulnerability attracts predators. Once a woman is wounded, the world tests how much more she can endure. At work, demons waited quietly. Still alive, not living, Amma. You were born, you lived, but you never truly lived. You only existed. And Amma, the same unfinished life has followed into your children, into me. Nothing was achieved, nothing was fulfilled. No meaning, not even in existence, just breath moving in and out, just days passing, just survival mistaken for life. Before I could dream, before I could desire, the decisive events of my life had already happened, as if fate rushed ahead of my will and sealed my path without my consent. Amma, you celebrated Punya's Tanya's puberty like a festival. There was a pomp, grandeur, rituals, and laughter. The whole world seemed invited. Mine, I did not know what was happening. I was in 8th grade. It came and went like a silent accident. No celebration, no explanation, no pride. Just another unnoticed transition like many that followed. Later, Appa arranged Punya's and Tanya's marriage like a royal ceremony. He spent in lakhs his hard-earned savings, his dignity, his hopes, but it was all in vain. Divorces forced followed. He no lives were rebuilt and no happiness remained, only money wasted and scars multiplied. And my marriage was not even a ceremony, it was an escape. To escape one hell, I fell straight into another, one that trapped me till today. Amma, I lost everything: wealth, earnings, dignity, respect, savings, jewelry, property, peace, and yet I was born with a golden spoon. Appa bought that 7,000 square feet land in 1973 and built a house with dreams. When you concede for the fifth time, I was born like a princess inside Swami's kingdom, surrounded by parents, siblings, grandmother, relatives. Appa saw me as his lucky charm. You both pampered me endlessly, but fate struck early. At the age of 1, I suffered a polio attack, a limp leg for life. Appa's love slowly turned into anger directed at you. I was taken to hospital, subjected to electric shock treatments, endless procedures. You stood beside me every moment. By the time I was 5, you tried everything to make me walk without support. You succeeded, but you lost your own health. Asthma entered your body and never left. From then on, Amma, all I remember is you lying on the bed, breathless, tired, sick, and rarely dressed well, rarely laughing, rarely stepping out, rarely living. Appa's unexpected vulnerability turned into rage, discipline, sincere but short tempered. He fought with you constantly. The peace of the house shattered. Most of the fight is because of me, as you were not able to scatter to my needs as I was limping. Madhav and Raghav learned arrogance and hatred from Appa. They practiced it to Punya and Tanya, violence, domination, humiliation. I watched everything silent, helpless, observing trauma without words. I became wild. I fought with neighborhood children. I was arrogant, impulsive, yet everyone chose my friendship. I looked brilliant, dressed well, came from a rich home. I gave food, money, dresses generously. Even when I fought, they stayed because privilege protected me. In my teen years, I became the dream girl of the locality, and boys admired, even men too. I had hip length, lustrous, curly hair. My face, skin, intelligence, charisma was a talk of that area. Aunties hugged me, kissed me, told their daughters to learn from me. I did not know then how dangerous admiration could be. Then came the chaos, Punyas, Tanyas, broken marriages, and the family disgrace, endless noise, and in that confusion, I chose my escape, Vinay, the worst possible choice. Unfit for me in every life, illiterate, poor, criminal family background. His parents and siblings were not human, somehow they were demons and vampires. I was loved by many, yet I carried a silent crush on Prabha, Malayali man, a womanizer surrounded by a gang. Saravana, Sridhar, Kanna, and many others, they followed me, intimidated me, tried to force me into loving Prabha, the Malayali handsome guy. I never even spoke a single word to him. I only saw him from a distance. When he came near, I looked away. I longed, but I never crossed my values. And they invited me to movies, beaches, ice cream parlors. I never went. And one day in a nearby temple, Prabha suddenly stood beside me. He took the vermilion from my hand and placed it on my forehead. I froze. His charm, his magnetism, his handsome presence stunned me. The news spread quickly. Appa warned me. Raghav narrated their criminal background. Prabha later met me on a train, confessed his love, and forced marriage into the conversation. That night I slept with thousands of unanswered questions. The next day, my friend revealed many truths: his gang life, his multiple affairs, and then I saw him at a bus stop with his gang with many girls. Something inside me died.